9 million Floridians living in a community managed by a property manager or HOA, if you've ever wondered what your rights are as a resident or what your role is as a volunteer board member, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Condo Coaches, your resource for when your gated community starts to feel more like you're stuck behind bars, or when that guy next door decides that a hot pink Chevy on cinder blocks really sets the tone for the neighborhood. The Condo Coaches is brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. And now your host, Johnny Torres.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. As always, from anywhere, everywhere you may be doing so. This weekend, I actually took a little time to listen to our Palm Beach station down there, and sounded great. Thanks to everybody listening down there. We also broadcast all across Florida in Orlando, Miami, and Tampa Bay, where we originate the show. For those of you tuning in for the first time, the Condo Coaches are a team of volunteers, and we share our expertise to help you run your homeowners or condominium association effectively, efficiently, and on budget. And we bring you this show every week with experts and guests, to give us insight on all the issues and all the ways that we can help you in your community. And one of the ways we do that is also by answering your emails, your phone calls, and your social media messages that you can reach us at all across the internet. Joining me as always, Head Coach Dean Akers. How are you, sir?
Good, Johnny. We had a crazy busy week this week. So this was a culmination of wins this week. So we'll be sharing some of those. And we brought, Mr. Dekoker, who's the board president, which is one of our wins. But as we get going, I'm going to share some really cool stories.
That's right. I think for the first time and now this 30th episode of the show is the first time we have actually one of our success stories joining us on the show. And we're going to talk a little bit about not only the challenges and the different issues you faced as an association president, but then also, your perspective on the process in working with the Condo Coaches. So again, leading that being my introduction, joining us today is Condo Association President David Dekoker. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. We were talking offline a little bit, and Dean kind of gave me some background on you. First of all, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
I wish we could delve into that a little bit, because I'm sure you've got amazing stories on that front as well.
Well, it's always cool when we have a vet on our team, and he's a Vietnam vet, and they're a much lost group that we're finally recognizing, and he's not going to tell you his stories because he had to kill you, but he was definitely the real deal
in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. And again, thank you for joining us. We are definitely going to dive into your experiences again, not only as an association president, but also as now a success story here with the Condo Coaches. So thanks for joining us today. One of the things we like to do when we open every show, though, is go over the emails, the phone calls, and the social media messages we get from people all around the state of Florida and even some across the country. And we help them, with these issues off the air. We attach them to the right condo coach that helps them through these issues. And so some of the questions that we bring up and the issues we bring up have already been resolved or in the process of being resolved. All right. But we like to rehash these because, again, so many communities share these situations that they find themselves in. Some of them are unique and they're quite amusing at times, but nonetheless, they're of concern. And if they weren't, people wouldn't be reaching out to us to help them with these issues. First of all is Linda, and Linda's reaching out to us, I believe, from the southern part of Tampa Bay in the Sarasota area. She said she's vice president of her 8-unit complex. Over 6 months ago, one of the owners stopped paying her condo fees. They tried to notify her all the correspondence being returned unopened. And so the question is, what turned out happening is she, unknowing to the board, she also didn't pay her 2016 taxes, and a company bought and paid for the tax certificate. So the question is, can they start the foreclosure proceedings if someone else bought the tax certificate before they were aware of it? They thought that perhaps in the foreclosure proceeding, they'd have to the first right to ownership since they had paid the taxes on it.
Well, I'm not an attorney. I'm
Right.
a condo coach, but I have experience in this area, and I would tell them to ask their legal counsel. But from a condo coach perspective, the answer is yes, they can start their foreclosure immediately buying a tax certificate, it's 3 years till they can resell the tax certificate. So it'll be 3 years from now, and then somebody will put that tax certificate up and try to sell it.
But what does that mean? When someone buys a tax certificate, what does that get them? What does that entail?
What it does is they bid on it, and they go online and they'll bid on a tax certificate for past due property taxes, which just happened, by the way. It's happening as we speak for the prior year.
Right.
When they buy it, they're bidding their interest rate. So let's just pretend it was straight out in 10%. So they're going to get 10% on that tax certificate amount, 10 grand or whatever, per year interest. At the end of the third year, they can sell that tax certificate. Well, that tax certificate crushes mortgages, crushes everything.
Yeah.
So two things. One is when you see somebody that's gone to tax certificate, it usually means that the mortgage is either they haven't figured it out or there is no mortgage or whatever. But at the end of the day, they should start their foreclosure immediately. And if it looks good, maybe the board buys it at tax certificate. But they got 2 more years. That'd be 3 years.
Okay, so even if this new entity bought the tax certificate, doesn't mean that the foreclosure process can't begin for the community to take ownership of that unit.
Oh, no. If they want to, for sure. They want to get an attorney, but they have rights to it. We could help them find out through title search if it's clean title. If it's clean title, they'll want to take it down for sure.
Right. Well, thank you again to Linda for that great question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Have you dealt with any of that where you've had to take ownership in your community of units that have been abandoned or?
That was only done in one unit that we have, and that was done before I was president. So
okay,
I don't have firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, but still not a fun situation.
Well, having helped him,
yeah,
he's had like 5 units get crushed by tax sales.
Yes.
Oh,
Recently.
Wow.
In other words, the good news is when the tax sale happens, now you have a new owner. So now you have a dues paying owner in theory.
Right.
And then you can only go, what happens is after the tax sale, you can go after what they call surplus funds. Most associations don't go after it because it's going to cost them another $2,000 or $3,000 in legal.
Right.
And if there's a mortgage there, they're going to probably crush them down. But it's worth looking at.
Okay. Well, Marguerite Johnson also writes in. She goes, "Hello, coaches. Our condo called 3 Horizons down in North Miami. Thank you for listening down there. They want to send a survey to all the owners to determine if the condo policy of no rentals should be changed. And do we have someone who would present this information?" And the question is yes, and yes. Like we would help you do the survey. We'll help you kind of come down there and give you an unbiased opinion on adopting this policy. We, of course, would be more than happy to come down there and talk to the owners and to the association at large. And so we are getting back to you. Again, Marguerite, she's the secretary of her condo association. And thank you so much for reaching out to us. That was an easy one, right?
Yeah, and our coach, I think our coach has already reached out to her, and they're setting up a meeting.
Yeah. So again, for anyone out there who is looking at whether it's an assessment, whether it's some sort of large improvement, whether it's again maybe adopting a semi-controversial policy, and you kind of want to get a feel for the temperature in the room, we would be more than happy to help you do that because I know you talked about doing surveys for these communities in lots of different scenarios, and that's certainly one of them, I would think.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Especially down there where they're dealing really heavily with the issues of like Airbnb and that sort of thing, and I think that's what they're trying to address.
Yeah, the big challenge you have is it takes an amendment change. So depending on your mix of owners, if you have high investor owners, you're probably not going to see that amendment change happen. Yeah. So it has a lot to do with amendment change.
Because I bet you, she didn't say specifically, but I bet you that it's not about the long-term rentals. It's probably about short-term rentals. Maybe people putting up these properties on like Airbnb and things like that. Yeah,
that's a big issue right now, and there's not an easy answer for that. It's kind of like the taxi companies fighting Uber.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So, well, again, we're here with Dave Dekoker, who's an association president, head coach, Dean Akers, and we're going to be talking about what the process is like when the condo coaches get involved with your association, what to expect, and get some feedback from Dave on his experience. How long have you been association president?
I got elected in December.
In December, okay.
But I have been a past president in Indiana when I was up there for 10 years. One particular community association, we had 625 homes, and but it was a non-managed individual property association.
And how about now? How many units in the?
We have 96 units now.
Okay.
And it is managed.
And now, any major differences between Indiana and Florida?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot, except that there seems to be a lot more legislation about it down here.
Yeah, sure. Well, again, all the vacation properties, and you got
it's more regulated.
Well, that, and there's a lot of combinations, right? Because especially down in South Florida, you see the combination like condo hotels. And,
well, the biggest difference is you can take any one of the 3 counties in Southeast Florida, and it's bigger than all of Indiana.
That's right.
Oh, sure.
Of associations. In other words,
Yeah.
those bottom 3 counties represent the 4th largest state.
Wow.
To combine. So we have so many more condominiums. 50% of the people in the state of Florida live in some form of community type housing, whether it's condominium, HOAs. So it's just a way bigger constituency than most other states.
All right. Well, again, if there's an issue or a question that you have for the Condo Coaches, there's a few ways you can reach out to us. One is on our website, thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. You can also email us, which is also a great way because, again, we can get that plugged into the right condo coach for you. Email us, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com, because that's what we love to do around here. And then, of course, our phone number. You can also call us, leave us a message, maybe even talk to head coach Dean Akers. Our phone number, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Again, joining us today, Condo Association President Dave Dekoker, head coach Dean Akers, yours truly, Johnny Torres. Segment 2 of the Condo Coaches radio show coming up in just a little bit, right after this.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Life is full of bittersweet transitions. It's difficult to know how these changes will impact us over time. For some people, difficult transitions like retirement, divorce, or loss of a loved one can hit harder than expected and may contribute to feelings of hopelessness or even thoughts of suicide. The risk of suicide is even higher for men over 50 who served our country. Guys like me. That's why support from friends and family makes such a big difference. Every day, your actions could help save a life. Together, we got this. Learn how you can help save a life at veteranscrisisline.net.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you again for listening. If you want to be a part of the show, our phone number, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. And if you have missed any episode, and I don't know why that would happen, but if you've missed a single episode of the Condo Coaches, you can catch up on YouTube or Facebook. Just search The Condo Coaches, The Condo Coaches. You can find a video because we do live stream this on Facebook every single week. And so we also put it over on YouTube, and every episode is on there if you want to watch the video. Now, if you're more of an audio person or you got a bit of a commute and you want to digest the information that way, we also put the show up for podcasts on iTunes, SoundCloud, Overcast. Just search the Condo Coaches if you're into the podcast scene, and we'll be there. And let us know which one you prefer as well. We also love to hear if maybe we're not on your service. Let us know. We'll make sure we get the show on there. But anywhere and everywhere you want to listen to the show, you can find the Condo Coaches online.
Well, we had a reach out this past week, which I thought which is kind of cool. We've had them from outside the state, but didn't we have somebody from Phoenix or somewhere?
Yeah, no, the West out there loves the show. I mean, we've gone as far as Seattle.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, we've had already hundreds. We're about to hit thousands in the listenership of the podcast version.
Right.
And I know for a fact that we have some listeners way out in Seattle that listen to every podcast. And thank you to those guys. You know, and again, a lot of the information sometimes is Florida specific, but the problems are universal.
Let me tell you what. We have a Vietnam vet with us today.
That's right.
And he's president of the association. And at lunch today, he goes, I'm not sure which was more dangerous.
That's absolutely right.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, he does a great association and stuff, and he does a great job. But I think people don't understand the magnitude of the volunteer effort and how many boards that are out there. There's, how many people are donating their time, like Dave, to make their communities better yet, and are taking an active role in doing things that matter.
I think if I were serving on a board, and let's say it's a contentious board, I think I'd have a sign up on the front of the table at every meeting that just says, "We are volunteers," just to remind everybody, hey, let's remind ourselves that we're all residents, we're all neighbors, we're all volunteers that are serving on this board.
Yeah, totally. And we had an incident. I came out to visit with his community, which was awesome. We had a good turnout and stuff. But one of the things they said, well, the condo coaches are volunteers, and it's a give back from us as members of the condo community, i.e. vendors and stuff,
Yep.
to volunteer our time, just like the board presidents and treasurers and all of them do.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't compensate anybody,
No.
to come on the show or give us their expertise or their insight, you
Right.
know, and I think that's a big reason why we've been so successful with this program thus
Absolutely.
far. Again, Dave Dekoker joining us. He's a condo association president here in the Tampa Bay area. Do you want to give a little shout out to your community?
Well,
Or maybe not.
no. I would hope they're watching, but I doubt it.
It's all right. Well, what's the name of the community?
Brittany's Place
Okay.
Community, a condominium association.
Excellent. And then, just before the break in the last segment, you talked about this being kind of your second go round and serving on an association board.
Right.
And you took office back in December. Now I'm sure you've kind of hit your stride, right? You've kind of found your rhythm.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what got you to this point where you're now on the show. How'd you meet the condo coaches?
I think it was November, I attended a trade show.
Okay.
Can't recall the exact name of it, but it was in Tampa.
It's all right. Yeah.
And that's where my wife and I met Dean.
All right.
And he spoke with us.
But you
And
hadn't heard the show before then, right?
I didn't know about
okay.
anything.
Got it.
We were just walking around looking for people who might be willing to provide an audit service for us at the different accountants and so forth that had their booths set up.
Sure.
And he happened to be standing out in the aisle and sort of commandeered us.
Yeah.
Just got our
Tackled him.
attention.
That's right.
He walked up and he really got my attention when he said, bottom line is there's no charge for anything we do and no one's going to solicit you.
Right.
Well, when you're walking around a trade show, that's a rather unique approach.
That's right. Kind of sounds like it's one of those almost too good to be true kind
Right.
of things.
So I filed it away.
Okay.
Took the books and so forth and went home and just thought about it a little bit and mentioned it to a few of the board members and so forth. And everybody was a little bit incredulous simply because there was no cost involved. And the obvious answer was, well, why not? Why not use them? We have nothing to risk here.
Sure. You hadn't signed anything.
Right.
You hadn't agreed to anything.
And being a little bit different footprint in Florida versus the homeowners association in Indiana, I had some learning to do as well. And some issues came up. I had a meeting. I called Dean and got a meeting with him, and we sat down and talked. And he wanted to see our financials, and so I sent those to him. He took a look at those and went, "Wow, we got to do some stuff here." And
Had you any indication before then about the state of the financial?
let me put it this
in your
way: the
community?
board was clamoring to get an audit run, and so the question was, do we need an audit? Should we have an audit? What do our financials look like? And they were a little bit concerned about a 3 years ago switch over from one management company to another management company.
Right.
And in some of the some of the reports, some of the financials, there were some strange things that nobody could answer where they came from or why they were there. And
was that as a result of changing property management companies, or did that just carry over?
Well, it might have just carried over from who knows when, because I'd only been owner in the association for about 3 or 4 years prior to that.
All right.
So I don't have any idea where they came from, and no one on the board seems to know where they came from. They just think they were rolled over, then rolled over, then rolled over, and
yeah.
So here we are with them, and what are they? So I brought Dean brought this up to me that there's some things needed to really be changed or cleaned up in the financials, and so that kind of brought us to here. Then a little bit further down the road, after that was kind of going away, he wanted to come out and sit down with me in that, and we were going over that a little bit at the clubhouse, and I said, "Well, would you like to do a walk around?" So we did a walk around. We're out there looking around, and Dean took a look, and he said, "Wow, we need some serious repair work going on here." And I said, "Yeah, we're in the process of that. We're trying to get the wood repaired, and then we've got some painting contracts that are up for bid." And
now, Dean, had you met with the board to this point, or no?
No,
just with Dave.
No, but we had talked, and we did the financial review was the first thing.
Right.
But you did that strictly through Dave.
We did that through Dave, and we did that, yeah. Okay. And then when I met him to really deep dive, that is when I went over and saw him, because we met in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Because I really wanted, we sent an email, but it was better for me to sit and show him.
Right. Yeah, walk him through it. And so you're walking through the community, right, after you kind of went over the financial documents.
Yeah.
And then you were saying you were in the process of already exploring maybe some paint bids. And
right, but with our limited funding, limited financing, limited reserves, which a long time ago reserves have been used to pay the bills. And so that was kind of a sore spot. But the biggest thing that happened was that Dean says, "Well, why don't you just re-side the whole place?" And I saw, he said, "And maybe put a roof on it." I said, "Well, that's too much money." I said, "We don't have the money." He said, "Well, how much is it?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Well, then how did you know you don't have enough money?" But we knew it was well above our reserves, so it wasn't even considering it. So at the point when we got started with the Condo Coaches, it was a Band-Aid
right,
sort of a procedure. This breaks, let's fix it. Now this breaks, let's fix it. Now this breaks, let's fix it. So we're just treating it as reactionary. Yeah, it was reactionary to whatever was. It was just we'll Band-Aid this and Band-Aid that. Dean says, "Why don't you just create a vision of redoing everything?" And I found out later that another association near us had done the same thing, quite successfully. So, new roofs, new siding, new everything, new fencing, new landscaping.
And about how old is the community?
It was built in 86, but it was converted to condominiums in 2006.
Okay.
So since it was converted in 2006, very little maintenance, preventive maintenance had been going on.
Sure. They kind of put some lipstick on it. But
well, no, they had a lot of challenges. They were one of your condo conversions that happened when the crash.
Sure.
So now you had people that had paid $100,000+ that now were worth $30,000. So they just were walking away.
Right, because at that point they realized there wasn't going to be an upside.
They'd never catch up.
Right. They didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Well, and so even the people who flipped it, they didn't put any money into it, right?
Apparently not, or they took out whatever they. The rumor is they took out a lot when they left, and I don't know that. I was not around.
All right. Well, we're talking with Dave Dekoker, Condo Association president here in the Tampa Bay area, head coach Dean Akers. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, again, a few ways you could do that. thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. You can also email us, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com, or you can call us 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. We are going to talk about the 2 new booklets that we are adding to our playbook roster. Again, if you haven't signed up, we are going to have 6 booklets that you're going to get absolutely free on our website. If you go to thecondocoaches.com/playbook, thecondocoaches.com/playbook, We've got the first 4 that have been hugely successful, and now we've got 2 new booklets, and we're going to talk to you about those in the next segment. Segment 3 of the Condo Coaches coming up after this.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Thanks, Julie. And coming up next, is there rain in your weekend forecast? We'll find...
Hey.
Hi.
It's been a while. Great place and nice neighborhood. You must have a strong community association board.
Thanks. I guess so, but I don't pay any attention to that stuff.
Seriously? How do you know for sure the board and community manager are making the right decisions to protect your investment?
I don't, but what am I supposed to do?
You can get involved and connect with CAI.
CA what?
CAI, Community Associations Institute, they're a nonprofit group that has helped us build a great community. They have free resources for your association board, professional training for community managers, and helpful information for homeowners.
Thanks. I'll definitely do that.
Is the time and investment you have made in your home and community protected? Be a smart homeowner and visit CAI at responsiblecommunities.com.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thanks again for listening or watching us live online. Again, if you've missed an episode, you can find us anywhere online. Facebook or YouTube, you can catch every one of our 30 episodes there on Facebook or YouTube. We have our libraries all set up there in our video database or repertoire or library, whatever you want to call it. And then also we got our podcast version. If you go into iTunes, you can go back into every previous episode. If you go into SoundCloud as well, we've got all 30 episodes there. And then, of course, all the other podcast services out there. There's Overcast and there's, again, SoundCloud, as I mentioned, iTunes. So if there is a service out there you'd like to see the show on, let us know. Send us an email, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com, and we'll do our best to get it on there because we, of course, want to make it easier for you to find our information. Dean, we were talking about the playbooks, and we've got 6 of them. We're rolling 2 more out this week. So if people go to thecondocoaches.com/playbook, that's thecondocoaches.com/playbook, they're going to find 4 playbooks. Tell us a little bit about your thinking behind why we put these playbooks together, the impact they've had at the trade shows, and why it's so important for people to download these right now.
Well, as you know, we get downloads there all week long, people downloading them. We send a lot of copies, hard copy. We've gone through over 4,000 hard copies.
That's right.
In the 30 episodes or 30 times. What the feedback is they're great books to help people. They're brief on topics that are important. I think I mentioned to you this next number 7 book, we're actually going to tack away a little bit. We're going to do a book on what condominium owners should know. Right. Because we get a lot of questions both ways. As you know, we get 50% from boards and 50% from owners in what their questions and concerns are. So the books have been infinitely popular, and now we're actually, some of our associations have asked for us to bind this 4 together, which we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're handing them out to the entire boards, this booklet bound sort of edition, if you will.
A binder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of keep them all in one place.
Yeah, and again, the quality of information in there, if you're a board member, is just, you should just have it, period.
Right. Well, the first 4 booklets, which have been a huge success, with the first one being, the top 10 things, most important things you need to know if you're an HOA or COA board member. Then the second one was collecting delinquent association fees. We also have now the ABCs of holding elections and understanding your community's finances. And so these 2 new booklets, I'm not even going to tell you what they are because they're worth downloading. I mean, you just need to go. I want to tease you enough to get you to go to the website, thecondocoaches.com/playbook, and download these.
They're good.
Because you are going to want these copies. And even if you've gone before, Just go there. Again, let us know you're a human being by putting in your information, and you're going to not only be able to download them right there on our website, but you'll also get a copy to your email address. What did you think about the booklets? Joining us is Dave Dekoker, Condo Association president here in the Tampa Bay area. You met Dean at the trade show. He comes up to you. He's wearing his bright orange blazer, and he hands you these booklets. What did you think about the booklets when you first saw them?
I thought it was impressive that they were going to give us that much detail, again, at no cost whatsoever.
Right.
And to be able to share that kind of experience that I didn't have was very helpful.
Well, and again, even someone like yourself who'd been involved in an association. Were you association president back in Indiana
Yes.
as well? Okay. So having been an association president before, how did you see those kind of resources come into play, even though you'd had some experience?
Well, it's a different ballgame when you're talking about condominiums versus individual homeowners.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I didn't have experience in. So therefore, in that respect, it was quite helpful.
And so far now, again, years later that you find yourself again in a leadership role here in your community, what have you found to be the most challenging aspect of being an association president now that, we're, 6-7 months into your term?
Communication.
Okay. Dean loves hearing that because that's Dean's favorite topic every show.
Well, I think it's critical. And I think if you can convey something, you can probably get favorable results. A lot of people don't properly convey or keep people in the loop. Owners that I spoke with, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? There was no method for putting the information out there. It's available, of course, if anybody wants to request copies of the minutes. They're definitely available, but people they don't go to that trouble. So now I'm proposing a website where all that information will be available. Minutes will be posted. The forms needed will be up there, and just a way to keep people up to date, especially on the progress of our vision, which we'll probably talk about here in a little bit.
And just give us an idea before we go into that, the demographics of your community.
We have 96 units, 8 buildings, and 1 clubhouse, and about a fourth of those are resident owners. The rest are
they mostly retirees, or is it a mix of age groups?
It's a mix.
Okay.
Yes, and then of course with the remainder of those are all investor-owned long-term rentals.
Okay, and in terms of communication, maybe what have you found to be most effective so far?
Mailing,
like direct paper mail.
Paper mail.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We're in process of gathering the email addresses, but it's a bit of a chore when you're dealing with
not
an
something.
investor.
Yeah, the emails haven't been done as of yet. That's not something that's been implemented.
It's in the process right now, blasting.
Got it.
A blasting program.
Yeah. Well, and again, we heard from Candace last week in our legislative update about websites becoming mandatory, but they have, I guess, until a year from now to be compliant with having that website up and running and all the documents that need to be on there.
Well, he's below that threshold, but it's kind of like somebody goes, well, this is what you should do or what you're required to do. The website's just great today, period. You just should have it.
Absolutely.
Whether it was ever required or not, it's part of the communications strategy.
Right.
But I got to share, when Dave and I met, we met like, can you help us in different areas? And then when he sent the financials, this is why, if our viewers, we've done this a bunch of times, where they send their financials and we do this spreadsheet. Well, that's how we discovered the real facts. And then Dave and I set up a scheduled meeting with their property management company. We used some of our Condo Coach CPAs to give some unofficial opinions on it. And we were able to go back and do a full-blown presentation on the financial status of the association, which today they can look in the mirror and say, now we know how we stand.
Well, and tell us a little bit about that, Dave. I mean, did you feel before, the process here with the Condo Coaches that you had a solid understanding, or do you feel that, this kind of really opened your eyes?
I had no understanding. I'm not an accounting person.
Yeah.
And I've had small businesses of my own, but, just cash type things and no double entry or anything of that type of thing. I mean, I'm aware of it and I knew of it.
Yeah.
But it just didn't make one lick of sense to me, and it's quite honestly still doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's a process, right? It's a big learning process.
And Dean was very helpful in that respect because he understands this stuff inside and out.
And how many board members do you have?
5.
You have 5
Total.
board members, including yourself,
Yes.
or not? Okay, so it's a board of 5.
Yes.
All right. So, Dean, give us an idea of basically not only, I guess from the time he submitted the documents to you, what that process was like, and kind of where we are now with the community.
Well, first off, we input all the data, and that's where we found some things by doing year on year on year. We had questions. When we asked the questions, we found out that nobody had really checked the balance sheet and said, is this a good asset or good liability? We went back, we looked at reserves, we did what I call business 101, which the industry doesn't do a lot of.
Yeah.
I'm almost shocked at every financial statement I get. And now when they get them audited, all the auditors ever do, people think if it's audited, it's perfect. They just verify what's in it. That's what an audit does. But at the end of the day, we were able to come back with some really interesting facts for them, with which we took a liability that wasn't there. We had some reserves that should have been made. We got it all cleaned up. But out of that, back to Dave's point, the big thing that came out of it was our one-on-one, where we walked in, and I just posted on LinkedIn a article called Self-Talk.
Yeah.
And we walked in, and Dave goes, well, we just don't have the money. And I looked at him, I go, so how much is the siding? And he goes, well, I don't know. I said, how much is the roof? And he's already said this. I don't know. And I said, then how do you know you don't have enough money?
That's right.
And so what he did is he went out and he did it. We put together, we have a Condo Coach template. If anybody wants it, I'll shoot it out to them. They just have to send the help at thecondocoaches.com. He was able to put the bids in. He was able to put the beginning value. He was able to put what he thinks the ending value would be, and that was totally for interpretation by whoever would want it. And then he was able to show return on investment and everything else. Now he's got a solid foundation of a good vision. Now we're going to help him and the board get bank financing. And because he'll have clean financials, he'll have a good vision and everything else. We just, like I said, today we just got one of our boards we did this for that just got bank financing. They couldn't get bank financing.
Right.
So I feel good about that for those guys.
Would you say that some that just going through this process and the fact that it's maybe presented in a more organized way and basically using bank speak, for lack of a better term, that's maybe what's changing the minds of some of these banks to be willing to put up the money maybe where they had failed before?
Well, a classic example is most of these balance sheets show real high delinquencies if they have them.
Yeah.
And the banks won't bank you if you have high delinquency. They say you can't have over this % delinquency. Well, when you deep dive it and you put the proper reserves that any business would do, it takes the delinquencies down and it kind of hits income. But the biggest thing is out of 100 units, we have this number of delinquencies. They're just big and they're growing.
Yeah.
Because it grows you can't cut them off like you can open accounts receivable for a business.
Sure.
So when we change the dynamic and present it as numbers of delinquencies, not dollars, and we show what the cash flows look like, what the reserves will look like, and how it's going to be, so where they're going to get paid back, they go, wow. And it's more us putting a business knowledge that we have with all our coaches into something that helps the banks. And by the way, we have bank coaches too.
Well, and it shows that also that the community is now has a better grasp of what their financial situation is and a better understanding and knowing what they're going to get into going forward.
Yeah, it's just like a normal business. People walk into banks and they go, I can't get bank loans in businesses I've helped over the years. Mm-hmm. And I go, what happened? Well, I went and said, I need some money. Well, you go in and say, I need some money. They're going to go, well, okay, how much and how they don't have any clue.
Yeah. Well, we're talking with Dave Dekoker, Condo Association President, Head Coach, Dean Akers. And in the next segment, we're going to get into a little bit of what that vision is, right? And,
Sure.
Of course, the current state of the community, which led to all of this. That's going to be in our final segment of the Condo Coaches radio show. Again, you want to be a part of the show, 2 ways you can do it. Call us 813-331-5415 or email us help@thecondocoaches.com. We'll be back.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio pre-diabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Hey, thanks again for listening or watching the Condo Coaches. We're here with Dave Dekoker, Community Association President, and head coach Gene Akers. We're patting ourselves on the back a little bit today. We're talking about one of our success stories, but of course, it's more about diving into the process and what working with the Condo Coaches is like. And again, the process is very similar despite your situation. This, of course, is probably the area that most communities have issue with, which is their finances, how to manage those finances, and also how to implement a long-term plan for improving your community or take care of some of the bigger repairs and some of the bigger projects that are wanting to be done. Had the community at any point, Dave, talked about even remotely trying to do something like this, or was it pretty much just kind of fix as you go? Was that kind of the mentality?
Exactly, fix as you go. Yeah.
So there was never at any point a conversation saying, "Oh, we just need to paint the whole community or replace all the siding," or
I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but it didn't.
Sure.
And Dean brought it up, and the light bulb comes on. I brought it up to another board member who was a major investor, and he says, "Let's do it tomorrow." Nobody thought of it. It's just it's strange that.
Well, and again, I think some of it was also the mentality that you kind of look at what you think is your the financial state of the community, and you're like, man, we could never afford something like that anyway. So why even why even paint that picture?
Well, my old deal, you've heard it 1,000 times, but you're always entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
Right.
With the Condo Coaches template that we have, where you put in all the facts, it showed these guys you couldn't bank the money. All the investors couldn't dream of getting a return on the money, that just the value, forget the possibility of increased rents by spending this money, because it's just math.
Yeah, the overnight increase in value by putting forth a project like this, I would say, is going to be enormous for your community.
Yeah.
And quality of life. We talked about they have some issues with some people there that may not be highest of quality of life.
Yeah. With
the security programs he's looking at now, that he's not just using a Band-Aid, he's looking at the best state-of-the-art security to make their properties perfectly safe, or as safe as it could possibly be. You're talking about valuations that are going to be way better than they've ever been.
And then that in turn improves the quality of people that live in the community.
Yes.
Yeah. And give us a little bit of an idea, maybe some of the issues. I mean, you were talking about siding and roofing.
Right.
So what were some of the issues you're now dealing with?
Siding, as of course, it's the primary problem now, because without replacing the siding, you're going to have deterioration of the structure.
Right.
It's all frame construction, obviously. And the roof, we've been patching here and patching there and patching here and patching there. And if we put an assessment out for one item, and then, 6 months later, you got another assessment for another item, and so on. If you're just doing it piecemeal, you could fix all the siding today, and then 6 months from now, you'd have to fix siding again in another place, another location, because it's all cedar right now. And it's been around since the thing was built. So it's time for that. It's also time for the roof. It's time for the fencing that goes around the lower units. All have little patio fenced in areas. That needs to be, it's all wood that's deteriorated.
And that's considered common area, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Common area vinyl. Pool deck.
So you're going from wood to vinyl on those, or are those currently vinyl?
Oh, we're going from wood to, I believe we're going to go with the hardy board.
Okay.
For the siding.
Right, for the siding.
Oh, siding. Yeah. Fencing, would be vinyl. If we can.
And it's currently what?
It's wood.
Okay.
It's,
right.
Just plain old.
Sure.
Wood fence. And then security is, I think, a huge thing.
And we did a security, is actually one of the first episodes that we did was a episode on security. And tell us, what that discussion was like and what you were kind of looking to accomplish in terms of security.
What we have going on now are numerous police reports. Each month, our secretary comes in with a stack, probably a quarter of an inch thick.
Of just your community, not the surrounding area.
Our community.
Okay.
And a lot of domestic stuff, a lot of thievery. And so in order to cut that down, we've asked for additional police patrols, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not all that effective. And we also have what we call our McDonald's 24-hour service there, where we have cars coming and going all night long in and out of the community.
Right.
At all hours. And it never ceases.
And you haven't been able to pinpoint as to why.
No, well, we can only conjecture.
Sure, right, of course.
So a common point of security, we only have one entrance to the entire association, which really helps out.
Okay.
Because once we...
you're controlling, the flow of traffic.
We're talking about license plate cameras in and out, general view cameras, clubhouse security, and gating.
And so for this vision plan that we've talked about, did you call a meeting for this? And tell us a little bit about how that process went.
Well, I wrote a letter, first of all, and just a what if letter, like a what if this, what if that, what if this. And of course, what if you could do anything you wanted to do? What would you do to make the place better? And would you add a new roof? Would you put up new fencing? Would you repave? Would you paint the lines? Would you put in new landscaping? What would you do to put this back to the shining complex that it was when it was brand new?
Sure.
And if money was no factor, would you do it? And of course, how can you answer that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got a lot of feedback.
Of course.
Yeah.
We have not put it out to the membership yet. That's only been put out to the board and some members, the ones who came to the monthly meeting.
So did the board members kind of whittle down, or fine tune what exactly we're going to go after in this vision plan?
Yes. And we've in the meantime been soliciting bids for all these different items. And we're getting some real numbers to plug into the spreadsheet that Dean provided.
Okay.
And we came up with a sort of a real number that the owners can look at and say, wow, okay, now how am I going to afford that? So then it's our job to make it affordable for everyone so that they will pay the assessment. You could throw it out there in one lump and people wouldn't be able to pay it.
Right.
So then,
which we hear about it.
You're out of luck.
Constantly. Yeah.
So if we can fan this out over a long period of time, you reduce the possibilities of assessment here, an assessment then, another assessment, another assessment, another assessment, in just doing it once and getting it over with, because the items that we're looking at are going to be good for another 15 to 20 years with new roof and new siding. And the siding would even be longer than that with the hardy board.
That's right.
It's got an incredible lifespan.
Right.
So you don't have to paint. It's just new gutters.
It comes painted,
new
right?
Downspouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get it either way, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'd get it painted.
But he gets the association when you do the spreadsheet, when you put in the average value and you put the average, for instance, the total value of the place at $30,000, it was $3 million.
Right.
Well, you couldn't replace a building for that probably or something.
Yeah, we could.
Well, maybe, but here's the point: is to really increase the value of the place because of its location. When he finishes this, knowing what they previously sold for, it's almost, I'd call it a no-brainer. So now it's creating affordable cash flows. The other thing he didn't mention,
you're almost getting an instant return.
No, yeah, you get an instant return. But the other thing is the reserves in the balance sheet get all reset. So now you've dealt with that problem. You've used the reserve. You've solved so many problems.
So where do they stand now, Dean? Where are they now, and what's the next steps for them?
They've got all their stuff. He's getting the bids. I'm sure we're going to talk here shortly about getting bank proposals so that we can come back to the board and the membership and say, here's all the facts. We got the cost. We got how it's going to be financed. We've got the term. We know all this. Everybody in. Now, one of the things we did in our presentation is the board actually has to almost do this because they have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain the common elements that have deteriorated. So that's another discussion. But we're going to have a successful outcome, I'm positive.
Well, and again, rather than a bunch of patchwork and a bunch of kind of fix as you go, which ends up being more costly in the long run, you're taking care of it all at once.
Well, and they've got great leadership with Dave and and the folks. No, they do, because you're spearheading this. You don't have to do this. There's no law that says you have to do all this work.
This is incredibly transformative. I mean, the impact that this is going to have on the community will be for decades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show with us. Dave Dekoker.
Thank you for having me.
Condo Association president here in the Tampa Bay area, and, of course, head coach Dean Akers. Any parting words?
I just want to tell everybody, send that financial review in. I just got another one from South Florida. Amazing things we find in there that they need to fix to make their community stronger.
All right. Well, again, free financial assessment from the Condo Coaches. And again, Dave attested to that. There's no cost involved. If it, it's one of those things that it actually isn't too good to be true, because we actually do this here as a volunteer, just like you are volunteering on your association board. So thanks to everybody for listening. It's been another Condo Coaches radio show. Don't forget to check us out online. Till next time.
You've been listening to the Condo Coaches, brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find us online at thecondocoaches.com and join us this same time next week as we help you navigate life in your managed community.